Well, Siobhan joins us now live from Marseille, and our correspondent Tom Parmenter is here in Paris as well. And Siobhan, to you first of all, this time last night there was already quite a lot of trouble in Marseille. What is the situation there this evening?
Wow, Jane, what a difference 24 hours makes. We're on that same junction where we saw all that tear gas coming in last night. We saw the smoke bombs being used, and yet tonight a totally different story. If you have a look behind me, you can see the police have brought in these extra armoured vehicles. There's a big police presence on the streets at the moment. I can just walk around and just show you a bit more. So we've got police vans here up the street. There's about 6 of these here with the police, as you can see in front of them, looking quite relaxed actually. And on every corner around this centre area there are little groups of police at the moment, very relaxed frame, and throughout the day it has been like that. They've had sort of foot patrols out during the day and then now more and more at night. But what we haven't seen so far this evening is that collection of people coming out onto the streets, gathering, and then later clashing with the police. And it was actually this area, around this area, on Friday night where we saw that widespread looting and violence. So the question is, why aren't they here? Now, it could be that they're tired, it could be that they feel like their message has been pushed through, it could be some of them had been deterred by the heavy reinforcement of police. We know that this is at a high level and it's going to stay like this for a little while. The other question is, are they actually just regrouping, having a break and coming back? I think, as you heard in my report, there are 2 distinct groups of protesters in this city. There are people who are very concerned about what they believe is institutional racism and things that need to change. And then there are some people who are coming out and making trouble. And interestingly, I was talking to someone who is connected to the police today, and they were saying another thing that's feeding into this is the fact that it's school holidays now. So you've got teenagers, kids who haven't got much to do, who may be getting caught up in this as well. So tonight, at the moment, this is exactly what the mayor of this city and Emmanuel Macron would want to see. Whether it stays like that, we'll only tell in the coming days.
Indeed. Siobhan, thanks very much for that update. Well, let's cross to Tom Parmenter, who is here in Paris, down on the streets. And again, by this time last night, Tom, there had been bother. What is it looking like now?
So far, central Paris, like Marseille, is much calmer than it was last night. We spent the last few hours driving around both sides of the river through the middle of Paris, and it feels like a regular Sunday evening. Yes, there are tourists around, but far fewer of the groups of youngsters that we saw congregating in the middle of Paris last night. The police are out in force once again, as they are, as we've seen in Marseille, some 45,000 officers across the country. And we've just been speaking to one of them here in Paris, who says that we are hopeful of a quieter night tonight. And that will certainly be encouraging for the French state. And we haven't heard directly from President Macron in the last few days. We know that he had meetings with ministers through the course of today just to guide the response that they have put in place to the days of violence that we saw earlier this week. And I think that is a calculation. They know quite often when President Macron speaks, there is often a backlash. And perhaps they are allowing the words of that grieving grandmother to resonate and hit home with as many people as possible and not to disrupt that. And while it is calm here at the moment, everyone knows that it will only take one mistake or a miscalculation by particularly a member of that police force for things to reignite in whichever part of France that happens. So it does feel uneasy, but for now there is peace tonight.